All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. Let's start the conversation right now, but first we'll review the newspapers before we get into the discussion of the presidential term limits. Can the ills bedeviling the country be cured by increasing the time of the leaders in office, or reducing it, or even maintaining it? That's a conversation we're having with the panelists here in studio this morning. We'd like to hear your views as well at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Let me introduce my guest, starting from my farthest right there. Kefa Ojijo, Secretary General, Roots Party, also an advocate of the High Court. Thank you very much for making time. Valentine Anyango, she's a former woman representative candidate for Kisumu. Asante for making time. Suleiman Bashir, advocate of the High Court. Asante sana for making time. Alex Mayore is here, Communications Director, Third Way Alliance. Asante sana for making time. And Wendy Aura, Executive Director, Young Women Leaders Connect. Thank you very much for making time. We're still waiting for David Kibor, National Youth Leader. As soon as he comes in, we'll drop him into the discussion. But for now, let's take a look at the dailies and see what's going on there. Let's start off with the Standard here. It's a race against time as DP goes for the judges. Impeached Deputy President Gachagua is not relenting in his push to have 3 judges withdraw from hearing consolidated cases challenging his removal from office, even as the question of whether or not orders blocking his replacement by Kindiki Kithure have run out of simmers. Now, without getting into the merits of the case, and I'll start with you there, Kefa, was this impeachment a good idea?
Thank you, Trevor, for having me. Trevor, you notice that one of the checks or one of the tools that can be used to check on the leaders, as provided for in the Constitution, is impeachment. Now, Article 145 all the way to Article 146, therefore, provide grounds in which a leader can be removed from office, and that is the presidency, both the president and the deputy president. And one of the grounds is if it's incapacitated either physically or mentally, and the second ground is on the ground of impeachment. So ideally, it is a tool provided for in the Constitution, and it can be used at any moment. However, the intention, remember the Constitution must be read pari materia with the experience or with the environment. And therefore, it means you must bring a question of intention. What was intended to be cured by this impeachment at this point? Was it proactive, or was it as a result of a reaction to a situation? So those are the questions that now the court is going to battle with. The petitioners have raised concerned issues that ideally the process itself, let alone even the process, the ground themselves do not merit impeachment. The process itself was unfair, both at the National Assembly and the Senate. And those are the issues they have put before the court. The respondents, on the other hand, have also raised concerned issues. They say, look, the deputy president has violated the Constitution, gross violation of the laws. He has also been accused of, gross misconduct and other acts that then warrant this impeachment. So it's a question of the court's determination. Yeah. The court will decide who ideally is, telling the truth or the position, because that is now the last arbiter where we are. Okay. After the court, then decision is made. And it's interesting what you're raising, that what did this impeachment, what was it meant to cure? Did it cure anything, in your view? We are yet to see. We are yet to see. This is the first time in history that this country is facing, a question of impeachment against the deputy president. In fact, we are setting a precedent. Even advanced constitutions like the United States that have been in existence for over 200 years have never had a question of impeachment succeeding. So this is the first time we're not only testing it in Africa, but even to the whole world. We want to see what threshold, therefore, will the court hold? What precedent will be set so that in future arrangements or in future questions raised on the conduct and on grounds of violations of office by the leaders, can they be subjected to that test as the question of determining the impeachment? Okay. Yep. Valentine, was the impeachment of the deputy president necessary?
According to what we are hearing that there was some very, very gross misconduct, some violations of some laws. And I think that even as a leader, if you really go against the law, then if you get impeached, then that is just okay. I love that for the first time in this country we are having that, because if we look at the Constitution and the laws, I think that as a leader, you're not supposed to be above the law. So if the deputy president is doing some very bad misconducts, then, well, I would say he deserves it. But the good thing is that we have judges we have the best lawyers in the world that are going to determine the case now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bashir, did he deserve to be impeached?
Well, I think I'll say, it's a political tool that has been donated to the legislatures whenever they find the conduct of someone that holds a state office, such as that of the deputy president, to maybe review his conduct and take up the requisite constitutional procedure. But the argument on whether or not he deserves to be impeached is a general issue, or it's an issue that can most importantly be centralized on how those particular parliamentarians undertake it. In terms of whether or not that particular threshold, in terms of those particular violations has been attained, it's also a different ballgame altogether. But where we are at the moment, we have a deputy president who has been impeached by the parliament. In fact, we no longer refer to him as the deputy president, but the best we refer to him is using the word impeached or outgoing deputy president. And as far as these particular court orders have now sustained the status quo. But all the same, for us, we have had cases of impeachment of governors and deputy governors. And when you look at this particular impeachment of the deputy president, it is not so much different in terms of procedure, because one happens at the county assemblies, while this one starts with the National Assembly, then it finds its way at the Senate. So as a constitution, in terms of the 2010 constitution, it's also a very important tool. It's a learning tool for us. It will build on our jurisprudence in the sense that at some point, we have not found ourselves discussing the impeachment of a president. That is now the highest office in our country. Rather, we have started with the impeachment of the deputy president, and actually there's a lot to learn in terms of the procedure, in terms of how this particular process is being challenged at the court, in terms of what the final outcome will be, and in terms of how the possible successor will end up succeeding. So it's a learning issue, both for those who are law students and also for the parliamentarians and the politicians generally, in terms of how these particular national leaders can be impeached, especially those who are holding such high offices as the example of the president and his deputy. But generally, an impeachment is not a very strange tool to us. It has happened many a times, and the process may not be so much different in terms of the thresholds, in terms of what to consider in terms of those particular contraventions. That might be regarded as gross, because equally the courts have tried to make some interpretation of what should constitute gross at some point. So it's a wait-and-see issue, even as the matter is pending at the High Court.
Okay. Wendy, is this a necessary debate that we are giving the country today? All factors held constant, all the challenges that people are facing, is this a necessary conversation that we should be having at this particular point?
Okay, in terms of, for me, I feel in terms of the relevance of timing, it won't be the right time to be putting it as a main issue that we need to discuss as a country, because I think we have a lot of pending issues that are huge. And in fact, for a second, the Kenyans thought that maybe it's a way of diverting from the Adani issue, which was at that the pressure at his office and the cold blood between the two. And it's so unfortunate when you are not in good terms with the boss, and then you let it out and you let the public know. And it's done quite a number of times in public forums. And he's gone ahead and even talked about the statements he's made, and actually which made him now made the National Assembly vote in the first instance, was the issue of the tribal lining that was being directed from his speeches will be my main reason why he won't be good for that office, because the office of the presidency is the highest office that should be at the forefront of championing for unity, and we should be able to feel we are one Kenya from the presidency and even the vice, and the vice is part of the presidency. So when the impeachment came, it was, and one of the issues that was aligned, or that was put up as the reason for his impeachment, then it made sense for many Kenyans who felt maybe that is a good reason. But in terms of timing, maybe we may look at it as a way of settling political scores that is there between the president and the vice.
Okay. Alex, what are your thoughts? Is this just simply settling political scores, or is there a valid reason for this impeachment?
Yes and no. But let me talk about something interesting that I have noted. So this process has taught us that Parliament can actually be efficient. You see at the speed at which they took the matter and focused on it. I wish they focused on crucial matters such as education, health, things that affect us, the common Mwananchi. This is a battle between two big people, but the common Mwananchi issues, I wish they prioritize the same way. That's one thing Parliament has shown us. If they want to work, they can actually work. It's a matter of them deciding not to work. So I will say that, in my opinion, yes, the deputy president deserves to be impeached, but the process is where I raise alarms, because as much as we want him out, or you may feel that this deputy president is not serving the interests of the whole nation, we have to actually look at the process, because we are setting a precedence in future impeachments. If you get it wrong right now, it will affect even future process of impeachment. Next time we may want to impeach a president and we'll come up with frivolous grounds such as the ones we had. For example, I don't see any problem with owning properties. It's not a crime to own properties or to have 21 companies. So I am keen on the process, because if you look at David Maraga Supreme Court, they nullified the election based on process. They didn't actually question the results. So as much as this impeachment process is crucial, what is more crucial, it is the process.
David, what are your thoughts on this? Was he supposed to be impeached or not? Or is this even a necessary conversation we should be having as a nation?
For the deputy president, in fact, they could have done it several months ago, because you cannot be leading some people like the house. There is a father, there is a mother, and the kids. So if the kid cannot respect the father, and then he keeps on deciding on how he will make his own family, and the right time has not arrived, that one, I disagree with it. So the impeachment should it could have taken its line long time ago.
Okay. All right, I have to take a quick break very soon, but let me hear what your thoughts are. Kefa, I'll start with you on this issue of the Adani deal. You can see the president has defended that deal, saying that Adani is putting in their money, otherwise you'd have to borrow. Is that the direction that the government should be taking? A PPP direction?
Trevor, I have said this a number of times. The leadership is about perception as 80%. Perception. You know, these citizens will not care much what Adani will bring on the table, what will happen. But where you see significant issues have been raised before, and they're demonstrable, and they can be seen as clearly violating the principles of the laws that exist to govern the system. You know, if people have raised it time and again that the public procurement laws were not followed, Adani was not subjected to competitive process, which is required, then why are you not even coming out to explain to the citizens why is Adani treated on a preferential way? We're just seeing it being forced on people. Remember, as a leader, you need to have two things that I always say. You need to have knowledge and you need to have wisdom. Knowledge is knowing exactly what is happening. Wisdom is knowing how to communicate it to the people. The perception is very important. And that is where the president normally goes wrong. He may have good ideas, he may have good programs, you see, but you need to understand the mind and the mood of your citizens. You are the leader. And so this question of Adani, whether they met the test or not, depends on how the president will digest it to the people. Senate has debated this matter before. The National Assembly has debated this matter before. People have raised objections with it. But he has not even commented about that. He's just coming with the defense. I think this is something that he needs to rethink, because otherwise, this country will still go the same way where we have been a few months ago.
Okay. Valentine?
Thank you very much, Trev. I think that if the president says that Adani deal is good for us, I believe that he has the best intentions for this country. I think that this is a man that, is the head of the nation. So if he says the deal is good for us, then as a country, as a nation, as the people, we're going to try and believe that.
Are you concerned at how we arrived at Adani? Because Kefa is saying the issue here is the process and the perception.
They usually say that when you get to the final answer, maybe the process really doesn't matter for me. I think that if the president thinks it's a good deal, it's a good deal.
Okay, Bashir, what are your thoughts? And I know this is a legal issue, but in your perception, is it a good deal or not?
Well, I think it is the people of Kenya who are to decide on whether the deal is good or not. It is not for the president to decide for us.
Yeah.
But in terms of what is the situation about this Adani issue, it's an issue that is pending before court. Yet we have the president who has already come out to Kenyans and telling them that the deal is good for you. We have the president who, together with his parliament, have not done a serious job in terms of considering the views of the people. And yet again, we have the president who has put us into a legal arrangement with the Adani Energy Solutions for the next 30 years. You can imagine, these are people who are going to operate on critical transmission lines and crucial substations. And this is going to live with us for the next 30 years. So even when he's out of power, it is the people of Kenya who will be continuously affected by what he has put us through. Yesterday, for me, there were two takeaways. One, he has said that he will be tapping into more and more private investors. That is telling us that there is more and more private foreign investors who might come into our country to take up crucial government installations and critical government infrastructure. That is just the point he's just trying to put across, that this is the time for me to now seek for serious personal or private investors who will come into the country and take up key installations. He's just trying to justify why he's going to do what he has done and more of this. Secondly, all along, I am a strong believer that this whole Adani issue must have had a Kenyan face. Ultimately, the face is coming out to defend this very same program. You know, when you have a scenario whereby each and every Kenyan is lamenting and complaining about this particular dealing, you must at some point give in to the people's demands. When you are talking about operationalization and financing on their part, yet they are going to build and operate on these particular transmission lines, which belongs to the people of Kenya. This doesn't belong to the president. He must at least be shy of enough in terms of at least listening to their views. You know, we're at a point whereby the young boy in Turkana and the one in Mandera today know about the Adani issue. They know about it because it's become a very serious an issue of national conversation. Yet, the president is now coming out strongly to defend these particular foreign investors. So I think so far we have had Chinese investors, we have seen Indian investors, and I think the next few days, it's just about looking for the American and Arab investors to come and take up either very, very more serious critical infrastructural investments that we have in our country. Yeah. When you talk about 95 billion deal that a foreigner is coming to invest in our country, the big question is, we need to see word for word these particular contractual arrangements. And these are the things that you don't just come and expose in the midst of when you put us into it, but rather there were certain stages that you were supposed to have consulted the people. At the formative stages when you will have asked the people of Kenya, we want to go into this particular arrangement. Will this augur well with you in terms of your objectives and interests? That is when I think the opinion of the people of Kenya will have been sought for. Yeah. But the time that he is now giving us his opinion in terms of whether it is good or bad is a time when we have found ourselves and he has put us right in the midst of what we are going to live with in the next 30 years. And I think this is a critical, and this is the best example of bad leadership that we have in the country.
Okay. Wendy, you know, the interesting thing is he equated this to the expressway, which he said was done under the same partnership, PPPs. Now they're getting their money from tolling. Yeah. And of course, they get Traco deal, they're supposed to do several kilometers, 95 billion shillings worth of investment. Is that really a bad idea?
Economically looking at it, PPP is not a bad idea. It is something that is feasible. But now looking at the whole issues and how my colleagues have also put their opinions on this issue, I think it brings up the question of, do the majority opinion really matter? In fact, looking at some of the projects that maybe have been initiated by the presidency and received quite a number of resistance. For instance, the housing levy issue that came about and everyone was talking about it. They talked about public participation, listening to Kenyans, but really, does these opinions really matter? And is it about just wanting to hear what we feel, but when we resist about it, then it doesn't matter? At the end of the day, there's a decision that has been made somewhere, and all these are just for the books and for the records. And when the name Adani came, I think it popped out of the blues, and everyone was talking about Adani, and you could wonder, for it to reach a point now we are questioning this particular company. What have we looked back at? What processes we've gone through, so that why are people questioning Adani? What's the problem with it? Because the idea of PPP is not a bad idea, and it has worked in many countries. But if we have questions raised on this particular company, then we need to now look back at where did the problem start? What is the root cause of all this problem? Why Adani is now the issue? Yeah. If the issue is about maybe transparency of the process or the procurement process, which is an issue, a big issue in this country, then maybe we need to give a chance, because I know some of the issues raised was giving the same platform for even other competitive companies to also bid for the same. But now there's a lot of defense that comes around Adani and makes you question more why particularly this company. So for a fact, there's a fact that even if we did public participation and we didn't want Adani in particular, then for me, I feel it wouldn't really matter, because a decision has been made somewhere. The same way now the housing levy is now constitutional, as much as Kenyans didn't really want it. So it's become like a trend. At the end of all this, the president will come out with all forces to defend why Adani is the right candidate, even if we had all the other alternative which we could even explore. I expected really
better option.
Yeah, I expected the president to come out and say, maybe if you don't want Adani, then let's bring other competitors and let's now. But if I wanted really Adani to be the one taking this bid, then this is my reason A, B, and C. So making just clarity for Kenyans. But the general thing is that Kenyans don't really feel the opinions around that issue really matter.
Okay, Alex, is this a good deal for Kenya?
No, it's not. It's clouded in secrecy. The moment something is clouded in secrecy, then you know there's fishy business going on. In fact, I'm yet to meet a single Kenyan that can actually tell you in details what is involved with the Adani deal. No, nobody really knows. I think the only people who know are the ones who signed the contract, the ones who are involved. You see, saying that investment of 95 billion, right? Okay, it's a significant money, but here Kenya, we actually have minerals like niobium. Niobium is something very valuable. We could actually sell these minerals and get this money and develop our own airport. Surrendering our airport to a foreign entity for 30 years sounds insane. And it's reached a point that we're discussing it just like we're discussing a football game between Man City and Arsenal. We are becoming used to it, but people are forgetting how crazy it sounds. In 30 years, I'll probably be a grandpa, maybe. And by the way, there were companies which offered to take over the airport, which weren't demanding 30 years. So the question is, why Adani?
Okay. On this one, it was on the Ketraco deal, the power line.
The power line, which is also weird. Why are you... That's energy. Which country do you know in the world has surrendered its energy sovereignty to other countries? I've never heard of any. Even if you are unable to fix our energy, it is because of incompetence and failure. Okay. So basically, for them to submit to this public-private partnership, it is a good idea in terms of how it sounds. It's supposed to be a good idea. But when the procurement process is done in fishy ways, CSOPO the other day was in Parliament questioning this thing, and the other day he was justifying it. So where did that change come from? Okay. So let them just put everything clear for Kenyans to see. Then we can approve that, okay, this thing is okay, this thing is not okay. All right. We didn't do even public participation on the matter, so see?
Kibor, good deal or bad deal?
A very good deal.
Okay.
Because, Trevor, as the president, he is a sober man. He cannot lead Kenyans into a wrong side. Because he also knows he has also other family members, relatives, something like that. They will depend on it, on the project that is coming. So if President has agreed this is something that is good, even if procurement comes, I don't know procurement goes how, you cannot give, okay, I may be having a company, but I don't have the resources to work. There is no need I risk that project, giving to you, Trevor, because you are a Kenyan or because you are coming from something like that. So if the president says Adani deal is a good deal, and also Baba has confirmed to that, so Adani is good.
Does that make it right?
No, you see.
What about the process?
Trevor, you see.
Baba kisoma, umesoma.
Trevor, there is a Kiswahili saying that say, penye wazee hapaharibiki jambo. So that deal is okay.
but Wazendo, see the mess we are in as a country today,
yeah.
It's because of those Wazes.
Yeah.
You see? It's because of those Wazes. So we can't really trust them to make decisions for us, especially 30 years to come. It is us who are going to be alive. They will be buried. So it's actually us who are going to bear the consequences if this thing goes wrong. So
you cannot, in this country or in this world, you cannot do anything without involving those wazes. Even taking just for dowries, until you take those wazes, you inform them first so that you go somewhere.
Trevor, just a second on that. I think what my two colleagues are really saying is that whatever president says, whether we follow the process or not, and it makes me wonder why we even come up with these structures and processes in the first place. We have set, those who are creating those rules and constitutional lines around issues of procurement, because we need to be guided by something, and presidency is not excluded. And in fact, choosing of Adani is wasn't Honorable Ruto's or Raila's decision. It isn't an independent person's decision. It is something that there's an institution that is in charge of that. So really, it's not about the president has said, so we are just okay with it because he's the president. So there has to be an institution that has to follow some set rules and procedures for anything that happens in this country.
All right, I have to take a quick break. When we come back, we talk about the presidential term limits. Now, we'd like to hear your views at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. See you in just a bit.